resolution to present to you, Doug? Why not? I'll read it. Whereas Douglas Paterson, on a whim, decided to stop by AVEK's administration offices on his way home from his plumbing job in 1979, pick up an employment application at the exact time interviews were being held. It's true. Bill, did you write this?
I wish I would have. I'll take credit.
Whereas Douglas Paterson impressed the interview panel so much that they offered him an available landscape maintenance position on the spot. And whereas Douglas Paterson, in a leap of faith, and knowing there was a great future at the agency, decided to accept the position even though it meant a significant pay cut at the time. Whereas Douglas Paterson's hard work, dedication, and self-motivation was ultimately promoted from his landscape maintenance position to superintendent of plant operations at AVEK's Eastside Water Treatment Plant. And whereas Douglas Paterson was a leader, mentor, and friend to all those he came into contact with during his years at the agency, and whereas Douglas Paterson has determined that after 37 years of faithful and incredible service at Antelope Valley Eastern Water Agency, it is time to move on to the next chapter in an incredible life, effective March 31st, 2016. He will be missed by all who have had the privilege to work with him over the years and by the staff at Harbor Freight Tours. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Antelope Valley Eastern Water Agency does hereby thank Douglas Paterson for 37 years of faithful service to the taxpayers, water users, and residents of our community. And be it further resolved that said Board of Directors wishes Douglas Paterson a long, enjoyable, and much-deserved rest in his retirement from the agency and from a career of service of great distinction.
It's been a pleasure. I've seen a lot happen here, and it's definitely changed. But it's you guys are going on in the right direction. It's going to be much, much better as the time goes on. So yeah, when I came here, the parking lot was dirt. There was nothing down in here. The dirt road, there was paved road coming up, and it stopped right here. There was nothing. So yeah, it was impressive. A few people I still see you've been here almost as long. George Lane, I know. Here comes George. Yeah. You have to go back away. That's it. Yeah. We were both young at one time. I was saying, you were here just as long as me. So anyway, I do appreciate it. It's great. And it's true, that's how it happened.
Thanks, Doug.
And item A1, COP refunding update for discussion. Okay, so Mike, are you there?
I am, yeah.
Good. So tell everybody all the good news.
Well, thank you for allowing me to join the conference call, and all the guys that could not be there in person. Of all the meetings that I could be in person, this is the one I wanted to actually be there because, as Director Donato mentioned, it's all good news. As you remember, I was in front of the board on March 1st, and we were all very excited about the upgrade that Standard & Poor's given the agency, raising their outstanding rating from a AA- to a AA, which is a fantastic, significant achievement by the agency. And so armed with that information, we went into the market the very next week on March 31st. And we caught the market at the exact right time. The Treasury market, 10-year Treasuries went down from over a 1.9% down to a 1.78. So we had a nice, maybe 10 basis point rally in the market. And we ended up generating significant savings for the agents. Holly, if you can put those 2 pages, there you go. I can actually see this on my screen and my phone. It's very nice. This page that you're looking at, page 2, we actually presented to the board on March 21st. You can see the debt service savings, projected savings of $8.9 million, total debt service savings, and projected net present value savings of 6.9, with percentage savings of refunding bonds 8.585%. After considerable discussion, a thoughtful discussion, the board decided to set that target at 7.21%, I believe it was. Well, thankfully, we didn't need that. Holly, if you could go to the very next page. This is what we ended up with in the market on page 3. You can see total debt service savings exceeded $10.3 million. The net present value savings were $8.1 million, and the percentage savings refunding bonds ended up being in excess of 10%. And it was a fantastic outcome and a culmination of all of the hard work for the agency staff and recognition of the agency board and their direction to be very conservative. I will say that not only was it market timing, but it was also the impact of that rating upgrade that actually helped attract investment. I'm very, very happy with the outcome.
So Michael, thank you very much for helping us accomplish this. Taxpayers in the Antelope Valley, of course, they don't have the opportunity to see what we're seeing tonight, but basically, like you said to us earlier, we were negotiating these with refinance the bonds. You said that the threshold is 5%, and basically this agency doubled the threshold in savings to our constituents and the taxpayers in the Antelope Valley, which gives us the terms. Can you explain to the board, and we have people in the audience, that the terms and conditions stay the same? It's just that we're going to save the money.
That's exactly right. The term and the length of the contract, the bond, remain exactly the same, and the net outcome is $500,000 savings each year just for doing the refund, and that is net of all of the costs. So, a fantastic outcome.
So, basically, good news.
Good news.
Good job, everybody.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate it. So, we need to borrow like $30 or $50 more million. Do you think that we can get that rate to drop a little bit?
I sure hope so.
Good answer.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
All the local dealers, all 6 local dealerships, and we got 2 responses, Keith & Sons Ford in Mojave and AV Ford in Lancaster. Keith & Sons proposal is about $5,000 cheaper or less than AV Ford. So we would recommend going with Keith & Sons in the amount of $23,288.23 to replace this vehicle.
That's good. So I move on board order 682 that we take the Keith & Sons bid.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. When we were discussing this, somebody in the room, you, that said they came only from Ventura County or something to go to Keith & Son?
Yes, when I previously worked in San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara County, we would traditionally go out for proposals on other vehicles. Sun is almost the lowest, is how it is with this, so even two counties away.
Lower this thing, it's like right in my view of all this. You should go. Is it on? Great. Thank you.
Is that van outfitted as already, or do we have to outfit it? Or?
No, we'll put some racks and things in there. Probably be another couple thousand out there.
Any more discussion? Question? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And the company, and the committee looked it over. We had a question regarding travel, and that's been resolved. Okay, so basically, we looked into this, and that rate was extremely compatible to what's out there. So I would like to move on Board Order 6A3.
Director John, with the permission to add to the board order that the travel time is billed at $100 per hour, as opposed to $200 per hour.
Okay. So it's going to be $100 per hour for drive time. Travel time to be added to the motion of 6A3.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve Board Order 6A8. Any more questions or discussions? Yes, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
C10, designating the signatures for the withdrawals of funds, deposits with LAIF and local agency. And can I do all of these at the same time?
One at a time.
Well, okay, so I'll go ahead and make the motion to accept 6A4. Can you explain what we're doing real quick on that?
I'll second.
Essentially, what this resolution would do is put your new general manager's name on the list, remove the former general manager off that list. Basically, that's what it is.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
A5, resolution R1611, designating signatures for the agency's investment accounts. I move on Board Order 6A5.
Any more discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
Okay, that concludes the finance report. Well, when you make kind of note, that's good.
Item 6B, Water Bank Property Committee. I believe this is going to be discussed in closed session. Correct.
Yes, move to the end of the meeting. So that's,
Okay.
that concludes. Did the supervisors yet vote on the Adam yet or anything like that?
I have not heard that.
I have not. I did hear from Adam that they're very close. They had it, put it on their schedule for the supervisor approves.
And I will tell the board, those of you who are very lame and taking real leadership role with the group, provide great information. So I think some of the
One thing I want to comment is, talking to people, a lot of pressure is going to release. And people are, the comments are, they really want us to come together and move forward and put the team together. We first with the engineer. And so it's good that everybody's doing it. And they also commend our staff for helping out. It's big, that's good.
We did have, just to report, we did have an involvement discussion, Madam Maria, and started putting together a process to go out for a search for water master engineer to
Then we will,
Anything else? That's all. Thank you very much. Item 7A, adoption of resolution.
I've gotten really good feedback from that article, so. This one is in there.
Any more discussion on the bill table? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Approved. Item 8B, agency engineers report. Mike Bud.
Thank you, Director. Start with the Operations Center expansion build project. We did have a job walk. We're in the midst of the bidding period right now. That's going to end up, looks like it's going to be on the 24th that we open bids on that. And we had a job walk, had a pretty good turnout. Swing as far as getting all the documents together. We've had a pre-job meeting on that. And it'll kick off as far as construction on the 25th of this month. They are going to close. There are going to be road closure signs on the far ends of the project, probably down by 60th and also by M8 and 70th. But the only area, that's affected is in between the driveways. So we'll still be able to get our chemical trucks in. Of course, board meetings will be able to have folks be able to get into the driveways. Those are required to remain clear. So there's been some questions on that. So
That's called the soft close.
it's really a hard close, but it's right. There's no through traffic. You won't be able to drive through the construction at all. So it'll be a hard closure. But and they're expected to get that done in about 3 weeks.
Are they going to put concrete barriers?
Yes, within the limits of the construction area.
I don't know what the hole they did.
Fortunately, the good thing is they're going to grind the pavement and then build it up.
Oh.
So that's not really much in the way of holes, thankfully. But you still won't be able to drive.
I visualize this 18-year-old after somebody's car, they were just flying 80 miles an hour on 70th Street.
We've had projects where people actively working had cars flip through them. So we've had that happen.
It wasn't a dream.
It wasn't a train, unfortunately. Nobody ever got hurt.
Like, are they gonna build it up, are they gonna have to put an A-base there, or?
Yeah, they're going to go with whatever the city requires. They were going to be allowed to use grindings in there, but the city said no, so they're going to probably have to put base down. Yes.
Base in another top.
Right, and then they're going to use the material that's behind our clear well that was a result of some of our construction. So, so they should be good to go as far as material. Should be about 3 weeks. Hopefully sooner than that. They had a lot of people in the room. About 5 people came. A small outfit from Lancaster was doing this. East Side Project, we're winding that down. We're in the midst of doing programming and finishing up as far as getting some of the wiring done. We expect to come to Water Projects with a recommendation to deem it complete next week, and then maybe file a notice of completion end of the month. We'll be talking with the committee on that. We did run water for the first time back to the plant today, ran it to waste, checking out a lot of the systems and so forth, and it all seems to be operating well. So we're on the precipice of beginning to operate that fully, so it's good news. West Side Project, we are now drilling EW 25 for water quality. They're in the midst of that. We should have some water quality samples next week. And then EW 10 is in the midst of doing surge pumping. They just started that this afternoon. So we should have some idea on the yields by our water project committee next week, and we'll be able to discuss that with you. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions?
Thank you.
Item 8C.
Nice to be with you tonight. I want to welcome you to 2016. Things are looking pretty good. I know on the agenda you have 6 items here. I'm going to kind of give you an overview that we've discussed with the Finance Committee, give you all the things that AVEK is looking at as far as exchanges, storage programs, opportunities you have, and then Dwayne's going to kind of summarize all those things and have kind of a plan for the agency. But I want to go through each one of these proposals so that you get an idea of what components are included and how much we're talking about and what the financial impacts. And I recognize the Board of Directors is going to evaluate each one of these for different reasons. There's going to be some that are for public policy reasons, for operations reasons, you're going to make decisions based on all the factors that you need to include. But we did walk through this. We had a pretty lengthy discussion with the Finance Committee, so I want to give you the highlights tonight. So the possible options, again, like I say, welcome to 2016, because in the past you probably haven't had quite so many options. Now you have quite a selection of things you need to kind of evaluate and weigh. The first one is Santa Clara. That's Santa Clara Valley Water District. We did a dry year program with them last year. They're a state water contractor. Central Coast Water Authority, also they're kind of an authority that represents a lot of purveyors that take state water project water. We did a dry year program with them also last year. Metropolitan Exchange, I have two things up here for Metropolitan. One is what we call an unbalanced exchange. We've done those kind of things before where we loan them 2 acre-feet and they give us an acre-foot back, and there's some financial aspects to each transaction also. So there's an exchange with Metropolitan that we're proposing, and a storage program, which is pretty much a classic storage program. Met would bring the water to our turnout, deliver it, recharge it here in the Antelope Valley, and then in a dry year they'd ask for it back and they'd pay for the storage opportunity. We have San Luis carryover storage, which is classic. We use that just about every year, where if you have table A left on your chart at the end of the year, you can carry it into the next year, and it's good drought insurance. So we have an opportunity to do that. San Luis isn't anything close to being full, so there's a very small and almost no risk that you would lose it if it was in San Luis and have it reclassified. Groundwater recharge, the agency's been interested in getting water in. I mean, all these programs are to get water into the Antelope Valley. So we have an opportunity to recharge this year. We also can cut back on some of our groundwater extractions. And then we have Little Rock Creek, where we've been in an arrangement with Little Rock, and we have some opportunities there. So these are all the options, and I'm going to step through each one of them. We did, as I said, we did a dry year program with them last year, which is a pretty good deal for a dry year program. They approached this early in the year and said they'd like to do another 10,000, and they want to do it under the same terms and conditions as last year. So the terms and conditions from last year's dry year program are: we loan them 10,000 acre-feet in 2016, and what this involves basically is releasing our Table A allotment from the Department of Water Resources. And remember, this year we're at a 45%, and the 45% allocation didn't even include March, and we've had a very healthy March, and April's been actually pretty good. So hydrologically, we're in very good shape, and it's probably, I would expect some kind of a bump in the allocation. Can't really tell what it is, but the water supply isn't limiting. Right now it's getaway capacity, it's pumping capacity in the Delta that limit our allocation. So they would like to do the same thing we did last year. And they are a state contractor and a federal contractor, and their federal side is really short. So they want to kind of get some, for sure, water, and they've appreciated working with AVEK. We had a good working relationship with them last year, so they want to do the same thing we did last year, which basically is we loan them 10,000 acre-feet of our allocation. They return all the water within 10 years. They pay $500 an acre-foot in 2016, so we get the $500 now. And then they pay the power cost to get it to AVEK's turnout when they return it. So if it takes them 8 years to get the water back, they pay the power cost to return that 10,000 to our turnout. So the agreement status, we pretty much took last year's agreement and sent it to them, and it has been completed, and we're ready to roll on Santa Clara. They're a joint powers authority that is a collection of purveyors over on Central Coast. They did a dry year program with us last year. Remember, last year was a 20% year, and we're already at 45%, likely to go higher. So they would like to do 10,000 acre-feet in 2016, again, releasing our Table A. They would pay us $500 an acre-foot for the water that they keep, and they would return half of it. So this is a little different than last year's program. I consider this kind of a wet year program, in that we would loan them 10,000 acre-feet. They would return half of it, so they'd return 5,000 acre-feet. They would pay us $500 an acre-foot for the 5,000. So it's $2.5 million. And they would pay that this year. They'd return that half within 10 years,
That's really $250.
essentially. We have sent them, or they've sent a letter of intent asking for our okay, and we have it on the agenda tonight for board approval. So that's one thing we could.
So, I'll go ahead and move on order 8C2.
We have just a letter of intent. What's the next step?
Next step is we'd actually, this process, we have to get a kind of a three-party agreement with the Department of Water Resources. It's just like we did last year where we said, okay, this is what we want to do. Then we have a three-party agreement the department puts together and we all sign that. So basically, letter of intent, we recognize things could, it is their full intention to sign an agreement that that has these terms and conditions in it. But yeah, it's just a letter of intent. Yeah, I mean, if the board can act on it tonight, in fact, he called me today. He said, did your board meet? And I said, well, they're meeting tonight because they're anxious to close the deal.
Have they signed the letter of intent?
Yes,
They're only going to return half of the water,
right,
unlike our others.
right. That's why I kind of differentiated between the dry year program where they have to give it all back to us. This is kind of a wet year program. So we give them 10,000 acre feet and they will return 5,000 over the next 10 years. And they pay you for the 5,000.
What is the distinction between the dry year and the year? What percent allocation?
Well, usually when the water board defines a dry year and a wet year, they look at the aid station index or the Sacramento index that I often show you. But this year we kind of loosely described them as a dry year and a wet year because last year was a 20% allocation. This year is 45% allocation, likely to go up.
That's just for our internal supply and demand, basically.
That's
Right
what.
here, water's worth a little bit more than,
And that's,
quite a bit more than.
yeah, I've got a slide that will kind of go into maybe at least to give you an idea of the value of water in a 20% year versus the value of water in a 45% year. So, yeah, it's a good question because it is different than what we did with them last year. We did do a dry year program. That was 10,000. We actually did 7,500 with them and then 2,100 right at the end of the year. And that was, they pay $500. It was just like the Santa Clara deal where they pay $500, they return it all, and they pay our power cost. This one is a little different.
On this one here, I remember saying one time, Wade said that some of the member agencies may be willing to already start paying back their part while others are paying from us. Is that still, we have the agreement with the authority, so is that an internal issue that?
That's an internal.
Okay. So we really wouldn't see it until the authority says.
Our arrangements with the authority.
Do they pay the transportation costs?
No. On this one?
Yeah.
No. Well, I'm going to get into the weeds a little bit because what they're going to do is pay us a portion for the water and a portion for the power. But it's the two of them together is $500. It isn't like the dry year program where they pay the power costs whenever they return it. They're going to give us some money right up front for the power costs. So technically, they're going to give us $311 for the water and $189 for power.
In past years, we would have had this extra water from the state water project. What would have happened to the water?
It would have, well, before last year, AVEK has left a lot of water on the table and it just stayed in San Luis. So
Did we pay half of the stuff?
you pay for it when you deliver it. And one of the problems we had in the Antelope Valley is we didn't really have a customer base. We have water available. In fact, in 2011, we had a lot of water available and we couldn't find buyers because they had to pay that variable cost. They had to pay that power cost. And that's really why we've kind of developed this market outside of the Antelope Valley. It's still going to get water to the Antelope Valley, but we can utilize water that we would leave on the table in San Luis.
Well, there was one confirmed. We've been dropping our water source 10% per year for the last 2 years. That's going to happen again this year. And if you don't start marketing this water the way we're doing right now, we're going to beat up our $10 million savings because we're going to end up digging in reserves. Now, this program is open to any state water contractor. Anyone who wants to buy this water, Armada wants to buy this water, doing exchange, doing exchange program. It's wide open for any of them. We haven't had anybody come to us that wants to do it right now, and they should be doing it right now, but they're not doing it. They're not coming up with the $2 or $3 million to do this stuff. We have to watch out for the entire valley. Everybody wants us to have water available. Everybody wants us to meet the Clean Water Act, and this stuff costs big bucks. And if we don't do things like these kind of programs, and it's really good because what's going to happen with these programs, it's creating an exchange security for the Antelope Valley that's never seen anything like this before. What we're doing right now, we weren't even capable of doing any of this stuff before until Dan and the board and the committees got together and started putting these plans together to do these type of things. I mean, ultimately this board, once we get the enterprise bank put together, we could put in 500,000 acre-feet of water in the Antelope Valley with a 10% left behind part of our program that could leave 50,000 acre-feet of water in this valley, which will then adjust many well issues in the Antelope Valley and also help part of the adjudication issues in the valley where we have suppressed areas where that will be addressed down the road when the master comes in, because they cannot take transferability or water rights and pump out of the existing facilities where they're already depressed because that has been identified. Only AVEK, under our system, and what we've done here for the last 8 years, could supply water to any water agency, pretty much any state water contractor here in the Antelope Valley on exchange programs. And so I just want to bring that up, that we're very fortunate to even have anybody in a wet year wanting to do anything with us right now. So we need to create these agreements, and I have to commend Dan, because if we don't do it, guys, we're going to lose water. And Dan, talk about the 500,000 acre-feet of water that drowned throughout in the ocean over 2 fish.
The one is AVEK, we have such a high entitlement where a lot of other agencies are entitlement is not near what it is for AVEK. So I'm not even sure we could have done this in 5+ years ago. We may not be able to do it a few years from now, but now the time to take advantage of our manager, the call person, and it's going to allow us extra funds to do the project going to be beneficial to the valley. So we got a lot of choices, and we could probably maybe do several, if not all.
Yeah, and I will summarize all of these, and we'll kind of come back to them. You can see them in context. But yeah, that's the case. Even in 2011, when we delivered water outside the agency, we made money so we could deliver more water in the agency. That's what our goal in all of these programs are, is to either get the financial ability to get more water in, or to get the water in itself to get return water. So that's what we're trying to do with these exchanges and so forth. And the 500 acre-feet that Director Donato mentioned is
How much?
500,000. Yeah, 500,000 acre-feet this year that they feel like they lost because they were worried about smell, and they've only had so far, unless they've caught one since then, they've only had 2 smelts show up at the bank's pumping plant. So 500,000 acre-feet.
Hundreds of millions of dollars still in the ocean.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. One thing, and just kind of off target a little bit, but one thing to consider is that this year the hydrology was perfect. I mean, the water has showed up, and we've been able to pump it, when it's available. So hydrology has not been a limitation. It's just been pumping capability and the restrictions that we've had on the pumps. So this is about as good as it's going to get. I'm hoping we go up to 60% or something, but the hydrology is not holding us back.
And the quality of the water is pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah. So moving on, this one's a little more complicated. Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. Any more discussion? Again, I think the 10-year term is too long. I fear that we will need to get the water back before then. I'm also disappointed that we're only getting half the water back. Anyway, roll call vote, please.
Shelley Sorcival,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
No.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lynn,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Marlon Barnes.
Yes.
Neil Osterman.
Yes.
Carried. They are also a state water contractor, and we've been talking about doing an exchange with them for quite some time. What we're proposing this year is 10,000 acre feet to basically loan 10,000 acre feet to Metropolitan. They will pay 1.5 times the multi-year rate for half the water. So the multi-year rate is a rate that was set up by the department. There's a program where state water contractors could contribute to a program, and it's called a multi-year rate because the contract says the only way you can sell your table A in a single year is through the turnback pool or the turnback pool. That's about your only option. And so I think it was Mojave kind of initiated, well, what if we do for 2 years? Well, the contract allows you to do it for 2 years, but it kind of locks you into a contract for 2 years. So it's like your cell phone, you know, and you don't know what the next year is going to hold. But they have a price scale for a multi-year rate. And I have a slide coming up that'll show you each one of those. And it kind of gives you a feel for the value of water in a dry year and a wet year. And this was the Department of Water Resources in conjunction with contractors sat down and said, well, how much is water worth in a 60% year? How much is water worth in a 20% year? And there's a sliding scale. And so the Metropolitan program said, we will pay AVEK 1.5 times that rate. So it's more than the going multi-year rate. And they will pay that for half the water. So basically, you give them 10,000 acre feet, they pay you $311 times 5,000 that they keep. So they return half the water within 10 years. Now, they will also pay the power costs to bring it up to our turnout. So they, we estimate that be $300. And so if they borrow water this year, they take the 10,000 of our allocation, they pay us $311 times 5,000, 5,000 acre feet. They, and then in the future, when they pay it back, they pay the power costs. If AVEK needs the water, let's say we loan them 10,000 and we need that 5,000 back next year. We have a low allocation, we say we need that water back next year. They say, okay, we'll give it to you in the delta, and you pay your own power costs. So it's not a likely scenario, but it's a safety net for AVEK that if we wanted the water back, we still get to keep the $311, but we have to pay our own power costs to get the other water back. The status of, it's kind of an interest, and as you'll see, again, it may be not as good a deal as the Santa Clara deal, but for a dry year or a wet year program, it's reasonable, and it covers all AVEK's costs. It really covers your risk, and it gives you that opportunity to get the water back if you feel like you need it. I'd be surprised if AVEK's in that spot. I have a sense that Met will end up paying you back. They'll probably pay you back in a wet year, and they'll pay the power costs. We're working with Met to try to finalize the agreement. We sent them a draft some time ago, and their legal department is looking at it now. So that's kind of where the status is. That's the next slide. Yeah, I think it's, put that note on it. That doesn't include what AVEK is paying all the time. Every year you pay for state project fixed costs. But what they've done is if you want to put water in the multi-year pool, and Mojave's done that at least once, a couple times I think. It's again a 2-year program, you put water in there, contractors can purchase that water, you don't know what the allocation is going to be next year. So the reason those numbers are highlighted, you can see that at 20% year, like 16 to 20% allocation, the water's worth in the multi-year pool, $322. At a 45%, which is kind of where we're at now, it's $207. So that means that if you would have put water in last year and you were selling water this year, that's how much you could get. So this isn't, this kind of help you kind of get a handle on how much water is worth in different kinds of years. It's kind of a hypothetical. I used it as kind of a gauge so at least you can compare one program against another, because you're going to loan water out, like last year. You loaned water out at a 20% allocation. You got $500 for it. It's likely they're going to pay you back in a wet year. So they're going to pay you back when it's not worth as much. And so just to kind of help the board get a comparison, I use the multi-year price as just an indicator of the value of the water. It isn't necessarily what you would get or anything. It just kind of gives you a sense of the value of wet year water, dry year water. You can see if you go up to 100%, it's only $25 because everybody's got water and they're carrying it over to San Luis and nobody's in the market. So the metropolitan storage is basically like a classic storage arrangement where they would bring water to our turnout, like the west feeder turnout. We turn it out, we'd recharge it in the ground. And then at some point in the future, we would return 90% of that water, and they would pay us $300 an acre foot when we return it back to the aqueduct, either through an exchange or a pump back or whatever. So they basically pay for storage. So they would deliver, let's say they delivered 5,000 this year, we would deliver 4,500 back to them, and they would pay us $300 times the 4,500.
It says the year after the water is returned. What is that?
And it's a little, I think it's a little deal in there. Basically, if in 2016 they said, okay, give us the water back, they would pay us on January 1st of 2017, the $300.
What is it going to cost us to pump it back into the aqueduct?
It depends how you do that. If you do a table A exchange, it wouldn't cost you anything. If you had to pump it out of the ground and deliver to your customers, then you're looking at your pumping costs.
So the contract allows us to do a table A exchange at that time?
Yes.
Is there a choice?
Yes.
That's the way it's drafted.
Okay.
So would there ever be a time when we do a table A exchange?
Unless that would be the most advantageous way we would go about it.
Little Rock Creek, we have Little Rock Creek Irrigation District. We have had an arrangement with Little Rock Creek. They have 2,300 in Table A, and for the last 8 years they've said, we can't utilize that. How about we loan it to AVEK? And they haven't charged us anything. They've been loaning this water to us, and the contract says, well, you got to get it back to them in 10 years. Well, Little Rock isn't anxious to get the water back. We're not anxious to pay them back. The department might give you an extension, but this obligation starts in 2017. So in 2017, theoretically, we're supposed to pay them back. We got 1,380 acre feet from them in '07. So that's what we are obligated to pay. That's kind of the contractual obligation. We are working on a regional arrangement, and the regional arrangement will be Little Rock, Palmdale, and AVEK, all three agencies. Instead of having to go to the Department of Water Resources every year and do what we've been doing with Little Rock and say, hey, we want to do 2016 water, we'll get it back to them in 10 years. We want to do a three-party agreement with the department to where we have that flexibility to move it between the three agencies without having to go back to the Department of Water Resources and get approvals and so forth. But what we've been doing with Little Rock up to this point, pretty straightforward. Little Rock says, we're going to give our allocation to AVEK, and AVEK's going to pay us back in 10 years. So in '07, they had 1,300 acre feet. This year, at 45%, they'll have 1,035 acre feet. So if we took those two together, we'd say, okay, well, sorry, got ahead of myself. So total, we owe Little Rock 55.20. And that's because there's been, dry years for a long time. We had 5%, 20%. They didn't have a whole lot of water. They've been loaning all that water to us. So that's the total of what we owe them back. We don't owe it all back at one time or anything. It's kind of a sliding scale. So the repayment obligation doesn't start until next year, but it's a pretty decent year. Maybe this is time to kind of sit down with Little Rock and say, you know, maybe we could include this in our Metropolitan Exchange. We could include what we owe you in 2017, throw it in with what we owe you or what you want to loan us this year, put it in the Met deal, and include that as part of the package that we include with Met. This is just proposals now. We haven't, as the agreement status, we need to start discussions. We haven't talked in detail with Little Rock, but they aren't desperate to get the water back right away. So we have an obligation. We don't need to, but if you did, then you can put it in the other programs and maybe, so.
I think we should just pay them off. And just pay them off. They need money. Bank water. So we discussed. How much we owe? 500,000, 400,000?
5,528.
No, dollars.
Oh, dollars? Well, that is a good question, because if you say, well, we could use the multi-year price, that's pretty generous, because the multi-year price, you got to commit to 2 years to get that price.
Here's the question. We want to give them all the water back. This year we got plenty of water. We're going to probably get 55% of allocation. How do we give it back?
Right, that's what
What now?
we're not going to talk about.
I already know what it is. I already know. They don't need the water. They don't need the water. That water district is not growing, and it's not going to be growing. They have a lot of groundwater, and we're going to catch ourselves between a rock and a hard place. Okay? I've been doing this a long time. Okay? So we need to figure out financially, maybe pay them back, or we can work an exchange agreement somehow where, I don't know what to tell you, because they don't need the water.
Well,
Think about it. Well, we had 4 dry years, right? And we just taken the water, and they never asked for it back.
Well, I'm fairly confident, frankly, that's probably going to be their motive, but we need to go talk to them.
That's fine. I just want to bring it to the whole board. I mean, we don't have 15 committee meetings. We need to figure this out, because it's going to get us into a, I don't mind working with them. I don't mind helping them, exchanging, all those things. But it's now we're in a situation, all we need is one more year like we have this year. Who knows? You might want to water back for 20 years. So we can work, so we need to figure that out.
And that's really one of the reasons we've added it to this list, is so the directors can be thinking about this and they can start discussions with Little Rock.
Yeah, out there, I agree with you, but their wells are very close to our east line it's the charge. So we could actually recharge it there, and we can pump it back out of the wells if they do the groundwater.
Whatever, that's
And don't we still owe something to home?
Yes, that's a separate committee.
Okay, well, we're looking at these options, I just didn't know if that's.
But that, there's a good thing. There we go. Stick our extra water right now, let it flow, and we pay them back that way. Yeah, I like that idea.
One of the other options, and we've kind of already gotten into this a little bit, is to recharge water. I mean, we've got state project allocation this year. We got 45% right now. The board's already said we need to get some water flowing in the Antelope Valley. So if you do 10,000 acre feet, cost for the power cost to get it up here is about $250. So you're talking $2.5 million worth of investment to get water into the Antelope Valley.
Okay, so we just voted on something that's going to pay us $2.5 million that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise to put groundwater back in.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a perfect exchange right there that we voted for. That was, you brought to us, which is a great idea, because we have $2.5 million cash, that would pay for this 10,000 acre feet of water to put it in the ground.
Right.
So to spend the $2.5 million. And that way we can look at our water rates and some other things. Maybe this year could be an option of a past year when it comes to fees and expenses to help the community out that way. I mean, there's so many things. That's why making these exchanges is really going to help the Antelope Valley and the agencies, our taxpayers, have the flexibility to do these kind of things. So, that's good. The Meals idea is a great idea. Raise our wells.
Another option the board has is just to leave the water in San Luis. I mean, no additional costs. It's low risk because you're not gonna get it reclassified. It's not likely to spill. It's very available. You know, it's scalable. You can kind of do as much as you want. And when you look at all these things together, you can go, okay, well, we're going to have some more water left over, but it's a good insurance policy for next year because it gives you a good kickstart for 2017.
But there is a little disclaimer there. If we have a repeat year this year, the San Luis gets pumped up, and we can't take that water, that's the water that gets spilled over into the ocean. Can you explain something like that?
There's a slight risk, and I think in the general manager's report you'll again see the San Luis storage. You know, there's that dark section and the light section, and there's that dotted line. I don't remember what color it is, but right now, San Luis.
Next year, if we can carry the water over this year,
Yeah.
San Luis, next year,
Next year?
we get hammered next year.
Yeah.
With the rain still, which I hope we do.
Yeah.
What happens to the water we carry over?
There is, I mean, if it gets in the way of the project operations, they reclassify it, they throw it in, and everybody gets a piece of it. So it could get reclassified if San Luis fills. So if next year is a big year next year and you fill San Luis, it's a slight risk.
Wouldn't we have, in that situation, wouldn't we have enough warning that we could just start putting water in the basin?
That's the
How
problem.
we would want it. We could, rather than pay $2.5 million to put it in the basin now, keep it there, and if that situation occurred, we just start pumping it in the basin. Because otherwise,
I'm going to change it.
well, I would too, but right now, we're putting water into the basin.
I think you're right, but I mean, no, I know you're right.
Well, that's gonna be old business that's coming out.
Do we move it fast?
Well, this really happened, what I'm talking about is if El Nino carries over to next year, and they get hammered to get up there in the Sierras, because that reservoir, there's nothing that hasn't happened. We don't know, still don't know the impact. Right now, it's 107% of snowpack. Okay, and already they're spilling water in 3 major reservoirs, is that correct? I don't want to take this report, it's on the subject right now. So we're dumping right now water in the ocean, okay? And because of this crazy thing our governor did, if he'd have dumped that 500,000 acre feet of water in San Luis instead of in the ocean, we'd be full this year. See, we don't know what they're going to do. And it's putting us in a really strange situation because we can just leave the water. And I think for gambling purposes, we leave the water in San Luis, keep the $2.5 million, because we're going to have options this year to spend that $2.5 million. You know, you got to remember, we only can put so much water for that pipeline. What is it, 30,000 acre feet a year we can put through that pipeline?
50 out at the bank.
How much?
50,000.
50,000?
50 at the west side,
The west side.
and then how much at the east
About
side?
4.
And as we go into this discussion, it's down the agenda, but there is some operational reasons why staff would recommend reducing the recharge.
That's gonna be in the old business.
Yeah, it'll be in the business.
So I've got one more option, and then we'll talk about summarization and then talk about all of these programs in context. Another option you have is now you're pumping groundwater, you can back off groundwater pumping, and you know, of course, one of the reasons people pump groundwater in the Antelope Valley is cheaper than state project water. So you know, you can have the power cost delivered to replace that water versus the you know, power cost to actually pump it out of the ground. So it's going to be more expensive to take water out of the aqueduct, but for, again, public policy reasons, operational reasons, you may back off groundwater pumping. So those are the options, and this is kind of a summary just trying to lay out all these different things for the boards to kind of see these in context. Look at the volumes we're talking about, the dollar amounts we're talking about, how much water comes back to AVEK in the future. So we have Santa Clara, Central Coast, the Met Exchange, the Met Storage Program, AVEK's groundwater recharge, reduction of groundwater pumping, San Luis storage, carrying water over in San Luis storage, and something we could work out with Little Rock Creek. So again, welcome to 2016. You got a lot of options.
So how much water?
After that discussion about the various options, we looked at, as a staff, we all got together and looked at, you know, what would be a downstream approach from an operational point of view, considering the fiscal matter, and also looking at our future water needs, not only next year, but in the following years, and how that might come about. And basically, we came with this kind of chart, and Dan already talked about some of these numbers, but essentially what it looks like is we have about a little over 83,500 acre feet of available supply from all the sources that we have available to us this year, 2016. We have an estimated customer demand of about 30,000 acre feet. And as you go through this, if you take 10,000 for Santa Clara, 10,000 for Central Coast Metropolitan, we reduce our groundwater pumping by 5,000, do our groundwater recharge, allocate 2,500 for Little Rock, and that may not occur, that might go into the storage component. At the end, if we maintained our 45% allocation, we would have a little over 6,000 acre feet remaining in the San Luis Reservoir. If that, if we get a 5% allocation increase, that adds 7,000 acre feet, which we're fairly assured that at least that's going to happen, which would get us up to 13,000 acre feet. If we get another 5 on that, that would get us, you know, closer to 20,000 acre feet in San Luis for the next year. So if we went ahead and did that kind of program, and the board was direct staff to do that, we would, in 2016, generate a little over $10 million in additional revenue for the agency. We would have 20,000 acre feet of water returned in the future back to the agencies. This water will be returned, and we won't have any losses associated with any water that's going. We would secure, you know, anywhere from 6,000 to 13,000 of storage and reservoir. And we would be able to likely be able to satisfy our Little Rock obligation in 2017, because this is what year. And we'd be able to implement foreign exchange and banking agreements with 4 different state water contractors, which really is quite beneficial to the agency. It wasn't just a year ago that we started this, and now we've got 4 different groups, and we'll get quite a reputation moving forward to make these exchanges occur. Yes?
Go back to that slide.
Yes.
This is $10,405,000 represent taking away the $2,500,000 for the 10,000 acre feet storage, or does it?
It's just goes back to these numbers here. So if you add the 1.3, the 1.5, the 2.5, and the 5 million, that's, you add those all up together, that comes to.
Could you go back a slide?
This one, or this one here.
No, we had, how much you're gonna go to our water bank?
Oh, this one right here. Okay.
Return 20,000 acre feet, at what point in time?
That'll be over the next 10 years. It'll be 10 to 20,000 return back.
The point I'm trying to make, I may be wrong, but that regulation would really generate income.
Yes, if you took the net here for these, you would be taking 2.5 million. Essentially, the Central Coast and the recharge counteract themselves. So there would be
But it's also not a loss, because we will sell that water in the future. So
Yeah.
it's
No, I
using-
got that, I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure. No, I don't.
Yeah, but from a total dollar amount.
Right.
The key to this agency for the next 10 years is to have 10-year exchanges. That means we're guaranteed having water no matter what happens, every year we're going to get, whether it's 5,000 or 10,000 acre feet of water, no matter what. And that would be the best exchange program this agency would have, because that would be a certainty that we can know that we're going to have water for planning for the following year. So that's something to keep in mind. I know it's not, we've never done this before, so keep that in mind, that these exchange programs are so important to this agency.
We have a slide here.
I'm sorry.
It's also exciting.
Go ahead.
All right, so we're going to go right to this slide here. This is the slide that talks about the amount of water that we will get returned over the next 10-year period. And originally, we have 22,700 acre feet of water that's in our main water bank. There's other water that's dedicated to, Waterworks 40 or Fort Sill or others, but in our name we have 22,700. But as you can see from the two exchanges we have at the Pacific Coast and also with Santa Clara in 2015, that's going to add to our total. That will be returned over the next 10 years. If we continue on with the programs that we have here, we'll have imported 9,000 to add immediately for that we'll be able to use in the next year. So you can see, when you add all those up, we end up over the course of that 10-year period, we're going to have 69,000 acre feet, which is about half our capacity of the West Water Bank, and most of that water is going to be returned at no cost to the users.
Can I put some icing on the cake?
Sure.
We're going to talk about return flows.
That's right.
Okay, so by having these exchanges, and bringing the water from these different agencies, putting the water back in our bank, those give us return flows. 39%, that's a state of Savannah change in the water master group or whatever. We also have 3,000 acre feet of water that has been allocated as free groundwater adjudication settlement by the state. It just keeps on growing. So keep that in mind when Dan's out there working his tail off, bringing these proposals. Yeah, some deals are going to be better than others, but it's an old saying, we can get gas, we're going to pay $5 a gallon. Barrel oil, you still look at the tank and now gas is down to $10 a barrel. Where am I going to put the gas? We better watch something in a storage tank because this is the way it is. And this is one thing with timing, because we got a taste of it. If we would have moved a little quicker, we would not know if we would have got another $5 million. So board, if we do have a dry year in the future, whatever it is, remember this meeting, because we might have to have a couple special meetings to have this collectively the 7 board members and staff to make some decisions. We're not going to be able to wait 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, because you know what? We got to make a decision, because we don't know when God has decided to drop 100 feet of snow up in the Sierras. So.
And essentially, this kind of shows that the board is essentially looking out for the long-term health of the groundwater basin through the banking program. So you're really looking at a long-term approach, and that's part of the balance. I forgot this one here. Also, if you look at this plan, kind of outlines for 2017, we're looking at the water supply. If we had between 6,000 and 13,000 that we stored in San Luis, we have 9,000 that we would have banked. This year we have 1,300 acre feet associated with the Blaylock well, and if we just receive 10%, which is pretty much a minimum, we have a total of 30,000 to 37,000 acre feet available to us, which is more likely going to be able to satisfy next year's demand. So we're really looking out to 2017 in addition to looking out to our future moving forward there. So, we're trying to take that balance.
You're saying we have enough water for next year already?
If we move forward with this kind of program, we're planning to make sure that we have enough water for next year. So we're not transferring all the water out before, and putting anyone at risk. So we're trying to make sure that we have those resources available. And hopefully we'll be better than 10% and we'll be there. So our actions should be from our point of view is to direct staff to kind of implement this plan. And we talked about, we've already voted on the Central Coast Water Authority agreement, and then direct staff to begin working with Little Rock Creek and start those negotiations moving forward. And, you know, as these agreements come back, we'll bring them back to the board and everything. But this kind of gives staff a direction of how to go and some security to know that we're meeting both our short-term needs and also our long-term needs with the water transfers and proposals that the board is includes the staff.
So do you want
Motion to affirm that. There's no border to that.
Okay, so you title it, and I'll make a motion.
The motion would be to direct staff to implement the plan outlined in the staff report and to, as presented, and to begin negotiations with Little Rock Creek.
Any more discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'd like to say something. I will commend we're working together with our new manager, consultant, team, the employee team. You guys are doing a great job. I know, when you go through the hiring process, and all these things are going on, but you guys, it's like you guys are playing like a championship team, and it's all coming together. You bring a lot of good ideas to this board, and I really think we'll be helping us.
Thank you. Great strategy. The same thing we got available for exchange and everything else. Off the subject a little bit, on today's news, it says you're supposed to all go to Yosemite because all the rivers and all the waterfalls are peak capacity right now. And I think it's either this weekend or today, I don't remember which was, until the 24th, there's no fees to get into Yosemite so that you can drive in and see all the waterfalls. So that's how good the water supply is. Northern central areas, I guess.
What's the date?
I don't know if it was starting today, but all I thought was the park was going to be open to the 24th with no entrance fees.
The recharge of this water because of water levels and various things at the water bank itself. So staff is recommending that we continue with the previous direction and move forward with 10,000 acre feet as it was outlined in the plan previously.
You recommend we continue?
How
much would we recharge today?
3,800. 3,800 acre feet. So we would recharge a total of 10,000 acre feet.
That's a fundamental thing. We include that too.
That
We've made the size of the sign on.
yeah, we still have 10,000 from that. All
all we're doing is doing what we just voted to do?
exactly, yeah.
So we don't have to vote on anything,
Yeah.
it's just bringing us more information.
When are you going to do it, General Manager?
I guess that we.
Skip away.
It's skip by the board. I'm feeling a little.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're better again.
That's all. I spent hours helping him.
Recharge, that's what we're trying to do. To me, right now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the recharge, we gotta pay to pump it out, get it back into our system. And we could just leave it in San Luis Reservoir. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's because of the pumping levels and the pumping that we've done the last few years, we've had some issues with regards to some of the extraction wells producing inefficiency. And we really believe that this 10,000 acre feet will really aid in being able to make sure that water source is available at the quantities that we would like to have it in the next few years. And that's the reason why. It's not a financial reason, it's more an operational reason, and that would help our wells at the.
Okay, so if you're not spitting it out, let's just spit it out. Are you saying it's going to raise the tables?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I want to hear.
Did we actually suffer some damage on one of the well pumps because of the decline?
Could be. We had one well that had a sand issue or something. We resolved that, well 17. But yeah, overall our efficiency drops as the water table drops, and really there's nowhere to go but up at this point. So exactly as Mr. Chisholm said, we're going to get some benefit in the well, water quality as well.
And it'll help our pumping costs, residual. But mostly it's the capacity, to be able to know that capacity our peak demands.
Now, do you have a report?
Yes, I
Go ahead, I said water.
do. We don't need it. Okay. Here we go, state water supply. This is really, really familiar. We still maintain our 45% allocation as outlined previously. Orville's at 116% of historical average, so it's doing really great. It's filling San Luis, by contrast, San Luis Reservoir is at 56%, and that highlights the bottleneck of the delta and the fish constraints that take the pumping, really reduce the amount of pumping that's available. Northern California is at 123% of the water supplies. We've got tons of water. Here's our reservoirs. And at my first general manager's report meeting, I'll say that Lake Orville is full. That's the reservoir is full. So, that's all. That's all it does. Folsom Lake is full. Dan had this problem with 20%. So we got a pool. We're good. So
Best I could.
But once again, San Luis is down at 50%, 6%. So we're still low. Yes.
I still do not understand who makes the decision. I keep using the governor, maybe that's who, but who makes the decision to send the water out to the ocean and not into San Luis? I'd really like to get some type of presentation. I don't know if anybody else there has the same problem, but political situation that, I keep hearing, this is happening, but how do we change it from happening? Like who's in charge, who makes the decisions, why are they made, so that we can get a political understanding of that.
Be happy to.
Would that be something you could do for us?
Absolutely.
The board like that?
We can certainly get that accomplished for you.
I'd like Larry to when we have that done.
You might want to like it.
Well, we
Well, it is
You
what it
may
is.
not get any for
Discuss that during those tours.
Remember I didn't finish any presentation, the bogus fraudulent Department of Fish and Game report they gave, and try to keep the.
Oh, boy, now you're doing
I just want to
Yeah.
understand.
The judge was involved, all things, it's unbelievable. Maybe here's some
I'm a
stories.
Democratic, not a Republican.
No, it was a court case.
Well, there is a hierarchy of decision making that occurs.
And it'd be nice to know who those people are.
Sure.
So that when 500,000 acre feet goes out into the ocean, we know who to send letters to, and I don't have a clue.
Be able to do that. Not a problem.
It is the government majority.
Ultimately, it is.
It is the government.
Oh, here we go. We got the northerns here, precipitation. Here's the 8th station index. And you can see we're above average. If we didn't get any more rain at all, we're above the 50 line there that we have. So precipitation, so we're looking pretty good for the rest of the year. So this is all good news. And there's the chart of the Orville storage, and you can see where we got into this spelling location there. You can see out the runoff is just almost straight up. And then, once again, here's the San Luis Reservoir storage. You can see we got right about a million acre-feet of storage there, and we still have a million acre-feet left. So that's the reason why Dan's pretty confident, and I'm pretty confident that we're not going to, over the summertime or into the wet period, be in a position to spill in very soon. But we would be able to see this track if for some reason that was there, we could be able to make changes as necessary. 16 and 17, it's a little smaller there. We got east side is on, and we still have our Pompano water connection. Our pumping's off our west side, east side flow. So we're going to be moving. Water banking, as Mike mentioned, we've been moving water in both those cases on the west side. And then the 96th Street east pump will be back online. We're going to be testing the east side water bank and getting some water going in that area.
Lynn, could you go back to the slide?
Sure.
So we're not doing any pumping on the east side wall at this time?
Yeah.
From the Blaylock wall?
Because we're going to be doing some testing on the east side water banks, we needed to turn that well off for a week or so to facilitate that east side water bank.
Blaylock?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So we don't have that interference, so we can see how it is. Overall, water quality for March is really good. When we're using groundwater, we're going to get really good water quality, and we continue to have good water quality on the west side. Just so you know, I'll be in Sacramento for my first couple of contractor board meetings, 21st, 22nd of this month. And also wanted to make you aware that the Metropolitan Water District purchased some islands in the Delta. There's an article that's in the pass around file. It's yeah, and it's just want to make you aware of that. It's a really interesting aspect of this. And that would conclude my report.